Okay, take two. This is video 5 in the Bolt tutorial. This is probably going to be a dual one for the C Sharp and the Unity. So let me just show you what the file originally looked like. I've just been doing some tweaks to it. All I did was I changed the directional light into a point light and put it outside the window here. I upped the intensity, and in order to get the shadows to be nice and clean, I tweaked the bias. I made the bias a little bit smaller, and I moved the normal bias all the way down to 0 so that we can get a nice clean shadow. And then I added another room light after that, duplicated, just put in the room and dropped the intensity down to 1, which is the default value, and the sun is currently to 5. I also just changed the room color a little bit to be over like the opposite of the sun color. I put the resolution of the shadows on the lights to very high resolution. And that's it. Oh yes, and I added walls. So I created 4 walls in the scene here. I added a roof as well. I'm not actually needing the roof anymore. We can delete that. So I have 4 walls in here, 3 walls. These are the colliders so that when, I'll turn them off now, that was dumb leaving them on. So that when the object is in the room, when I come over this side that we can't see, actually you shouldn't be able to build there. So if I turn off these colliders and do that again, notice how I'm able to put the bed right over the edge. But the moment I add these colliders back in, and we try it again, I'm not able to even, like the moment I go into that wall, it's no longer able to place it. So that is what we were doing there. So that's what I was tweaking those values. So all I did was create this, and then I just removed the mesh renderer. You can even just right click and say remove, right click and say remove, and just leave the box colliders once you're done. I just like to have a visual reference of what I'm doing, and then I tend to remove that stuff. There we go. The colliders are in place, and we have tweaked the lighting a little bit. It's not anywhere near final, not even by the stretch of the imagination, but it's close enough for now. I really think it is. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to talk a little bit about like post-processing, talking about how these materials are here, that we can switch them out for different materials. And after we talked about the materials and the post-processing, I just want to go into UI. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to tackle this? How many buttons do you think we can have? Are we going to have a window that pops up? When we click on it, it disappears so we can place the object. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So we got to go into that. So let's talk about choosing the right background color, for example. I'm probably just going to make it, for now, a little bit lighter. I don't want to take away from the room. I just want to add to the room. And for now, I'm going to remove all the buttons except for one, because I'm going to remember we're going to be adjusting those. And for the post-processing aspect of this, I want to go to Window, Package Manager, and I'm waiting for it to load the packages. If your internet's as slow as mine, this could take a little bit, but if not, it shouldn't take long at all. Okay, I've already got the post-processing installed here, but if not, just make sure that you're going to preview all the packages, and you're going to be all packages here, and just give it another shot and refresh. Hopefully it will refresh. I don't know, this package manager used to be reliable, but it's become a little bit finicky lately, where it doesn't always load. Okay, let's click on In Project, click on All Packages, and refresh again. I think it should work this time, hopefully. Well, at least now I'm recording my voice. Previously I was not doing that. Okay, so anyway, once it loads and you have a list of lots of things, just do a search for post. Find the post-processing and install. You'll see an install option in the bottom right here. Install the post-processing. When you're done with that, you should have a up-to-date button here and a remove. That's when you know you've done it right. And we're going to simply set this up to have post-processing. So in a setup like this, I normally put my layer and my volume both on the camera. So with the camera selected, we need to add a layer 4. the post-processing. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to remove this. I already have one here, but I'm going to remove it to show you how I did it. I'm just going to call it PP for post-processing. I'm going to select my camera and assign post-processing layer to that. And then now we're going to type and we're going to look for post. Just type in post. We always need a layer and a volume inside of our project. And this, by the way, for those of you watching, we're just using the standard Unity render. We're not using URP. We're not using the HD render pipeline. This is just standard out of the box Unity. So I'm just showing that you can use post-processing without having to install all that stuff. Okay, so we're going to put in a layer. And I'm going to assign the PP to where it says layer. And then anti-aliasing, if you want to have it just to kind of soften the edges, that is up to you. I'm just going to use your fast approximate anti-aliasing, just a cheaper one, just to have something. Because there's not a lot of movement going on here, so we should be okay. And then I'm going to add a post-processing volume. This one's going to ask whether it's going to be applied to the entire scene or areas of a scene. This is not going to have different post-processing volumes. It's just going to have one. So is global is fine. And then I'm going to click create new profile. Now this is where it actually stores all the post-processing effects we're going to add. So we're ready to go by hitting add effect. I'm going to do a vignette because that's the easiest one to kind of show that it works straight away out of the box. A vignette just kind of darkens the edges of your screen just to kind of bring your focus to the center. So, but you'll see it doesn't seem like it's doing anything. If I turn this on and off, it's doing nothing. That's because it adds the effect, but it adds the effect off. So you just need to go in and turn this on and just up the intensity. Notice how the vignette is getting stronger as I slide this up. We have different options to how smooth or how hard the vignette's going to be. We have another one for how round. Let me just make this bigger so you can see it. Like, look at the edges. Look how they're harder or they're more round. So you decide kind of the look you're trying to go for. How smooth or hard. I'm just going to push it further to the edge here. And the intensity is too much. So I'm just going to drop off the intensity and just push up the smoothness a little bit. And pull in the roundness. Just tweak it till you're happy with it, really. It's just a subtle effect. Doesn't have to be. There we go. Nice. Okay, so we're going to add another effect. I'm just showing you how these effects work. You can mess around with them afterwards if you want. I'm going to add the bloom. Always add a little bit of bloom regardless. Again, it's off, so let's notice how as I slide the bloom up, notice the intensity in the window frame there and on the light. So I like to just change this. I like to test how much this should be. I think for now I'm just going to leave it at 5. It might be too much, but we can always come back and tweak that. Then the last thing I like to normally add is a color grade, just to kind of tweak things. So you have a lot of things. You can have different modes. You can go for more of a neutral tone. You can go there. You can go none. These are just presets for tone mapping. And then you can also just play around with the temperature, so which means it's going to go and change the hue values of your room. It didn't look too bad. It's a little bit much, but it did not look too bad. Just going to leave a little bit of that. And then I always add a little bit of contrast just to kind of punch up the colors a little bit. Almost like from my days of working in TV, I just like to crush the blacks a little bit. This might need to be more around there. It's getting a bit much. Okay, so let's leave it at that for now. But that's how post-processing works. You just add it. It's really basic. I can just turn the whole thing on and off just to see it. Are you sure what global does? If I turn it off, notice how it stops working. So you're going to want to mess around with that and get that working properly. Like, make sure global is on for this case. Okay, so that's it for post-processing. We've done shadow quality, we have done lighting, very basic lighting, nothing fancy. And all that is left to do is just how do we go about tweaking these buttons, making them different or pretty, adding fonts. The way you add fonts, simply go to your font website of choice, download it, and drag the font into a folder that I created called fonts. So I've got two fonts here. They're normally TrueType fonts, TTF fonts, so those are the ones you're going to want to grab and drag them in here. Let me just show you how to. I'm not going to be using fonts in this case, but I'm going to show you how you assign it. So if I go to my button here, be aware that the post-processing works in the actual viewport. Yeah, so if I go here, notice how in the viewport it's still applying all of the post-processing. So if this gets in your way, just make sure to disable it so you can work in the viewport. You should be able to disable it here as well. Let's see, post-processing, there we go. But if you like it in the viewport, you can leave it. That's more than enough. But it is there is a switch to turn it on and off. Okay, as we were. Button. So let's say we want to change that font. All I do is select the text. Where it says Arial, I grab one of my two fonts. They're both very similar actually. There we go. And I've switched out the font. Some fonts, these ones don't work with the Unity standard bold and italic. Be very careful. Not all of them work. So italic might work. Because some of these fonts are already bold and you're just adding bold on top of it, which makes it just twice as bad. Okay, there we go. And that's how you change a font. So like I said, I'm not going to use fonts, but I just wanted to show you how to do it. I'm going to delete this, and we're going to use this bed button as the starting point. I designed a few UI elements in Photoshop really quickly. When you bring them in, they are set to texture type default. You do not want to be able, you will not be able to use these. These are used for texturing or to apply to materials. They don't work inside of your UI. So you need to change from default to sprite, 2D, and UI. Let's just apply that. And if I select this button and I'm going to grab, I think this is the bed, so I'm going to grab my bed icon, drag it over there. Notice how the aspect ratio is a little broken, a little bit buggered, because if I look at the bed icon, the texture is 256 by 256, so this needs to be essentially a perfect square. So I'm just going to grab this and make it 100 by 100. My icon is huge. So I'm probably going to go for something more like 50 and 50. There we go. There's my first little button. It should still work. There it is. There we go. It works. Okay, so why do I normally like designing my UI to be grayscale or white in this case, because I can change the color of this icon. So if I want the icon to be a different color or different, I can just choose the normal color. And let's say we want to push it into the spectrum of the color of this wall here. Let's push it up a little bit. There we go. I can just add whatever color I want to this button. So I'm going to select this button. I'm going to copy the normal color and I'm going to paste it in the highlight color. Now I'm just going to push it a little bit away from that. So just maybe a little bit lighter. So it just like pops when you go over it. And in the pressed color, I want to choose to be like when you click on it, it can probably just be a darker version of that. So I'm going to click the little eyedropper, pick that. Just kind of move a little bit to that side to kind of get a little bit of a darker version. Selected color now, selected and highlighted color should be the same. The reason for this is highlighted is when your cursor hovers over something, and selected is when you're moving with your analog stick and you actually activate a button to be selected, that color changes as well. So we need to have those two. I'm going to just assign a little bit of a darker gray for this when it gets disabled. And now we can test to see if all these colors work. So that should be your normal color. That's my highlighted color. Normal, highlighted. Pressed is a little bit dark, as you can see. When it goes grayed out over here, disabled. When it comes back. So I'm thinking when it's disabled, I'm probably just going to turn the opacity completely to 0 in the alpha, so that the button goes completely transparent. So I'm not aware that I'm able to press that button at all. So let's try that. There we go, completely transparent, and brings it back. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm probably going to go and design like a few more buttons, because I realize we're just missing a few things. So here's our bed button, but I'm going to duplicate the ones that I do have. So I'm going to duplicate this button, just put it here, change the image for my TV stand, and I'm going to just rename this one to TV stand. And remember, we need to assign the correct model to the script. So currently it's using double base. We need to go to our prefabs, bolt, and we need to assign the TV unit. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing, duplicate it one more time, just so that I can, it's really not a lot of, takes a little bit of time, but nothing major. And now I'm going to assign the TV to this one. And then I'm going to change the image to be the TV icon. Could I make sure that I'm actually dragging into the right place? That would be beautiful. There we go. And just rename this one to TV like that. And we can test if all of these work. They should. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. There we go. There's my 3 buttons. When I hover over them, TV stand. There we go. Rotate it. Let's position it here. Grab the bed. Put the bed on that side by the window. Then we can grab the TV, put it on top of the TV stand, and rotate it. And this is where we're going to see it. I actually want to bring the TV towards me so I can see what if the glow is too much. Right now I think the glow is way too much. I'm going to turn the TV on. We're going to go to our post-processing and just adjust. I think about 2.5 or 2 I'm going to go about 2.5 on this value. Okay, so everything is working. All these buttons are working. So now we need to consider like how we're going to do it. Are we going to do some sort of scrolling for the buttons if we have lots and lots of buttons? Or are we going to have a little window that pops up with all the buttons inside and we can select what we want and then close it again? It is really up to how we want to design it. So I'm going to quickly go to Photoshop and design a little button that's got the standard 3 little lines. So when you're clicking it, we're going to have a drop down of all these buttons, and I'm going to create a little X to quit the game, and then a little restart button, a recycle button. So let's just quickly go to Photoshop. Sorry, I'll move my Photoshop across to that side as soon as I've opened this file. There we go. I'm just going to clear out the middle here. I do not need this. I have to make sure I select the correct one. I'll remove the inside over here. I'm just going to add potentially add 3 little, just like I said, 3 little lines here. So I'm just going to choose let's make it, will this polygon be okay? Whoa, hell no. Let's use a rounded rectangle. So I'm going to just add 1 line that I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to change the full color to be white. There we go. I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times because that's your, drag it onto the layers. I'm going to move this one down by just using the arrow keys. Duplicate it 1 more time and move it again. I'm kind of eyeballing this. I would not recommend that you guys eyeball this. Probably use the rulers, that would be great. Okay, so this is going to be my little drop down. This middle one is definitely not in the middle. There we go, that's a little bit better. So I'm going to save this as a PNG. In here, let's just call this options icon. Not really, but that's what we're going to call it right now. Click OK to whatever the option is here. And I'm going to need an X, so I'm just going to basically just use what I've got here. Trash this. Rotate this at 45 degrees. Rotate the bottom one, holding down Control will allow, Shift will allow you to kind of snap it at 45. Okay, so this is going to be where we quit the game. We don't really have a quit the game kind of button yet, and the code for it is so simple. So I'm just going to do the icon now so we can talk about it. Quit icon. Then the last one is kind of like almost like a recycle icon. So I just need to start with a shape. So I'm going to start with a elliptical shape. Let's create the circle for the refresh. There we go. Move it to the middle. I'm going to turn the other layers off here. Way too much crap here. We don't need this. Close this. Close this. There we go. And I'm going to select this shape and I'm going to get rid of let's clear out all these layers for now. Okay, let's do the circle again. I'm going to get rid of the fill. I don't need any fill, but I do need a line, so I'm going to change the thickness of the line to be, I think 10 pixels should be enough. There we go. That's not bad. Okay, so I'm just going to reduce the scale a little bit because all the other icons aren't this big. Definitely going to change the thickness up a little bit again. And you can't, I want to cut this line and just put a little arrow here, so we can't do that as it stands. No, I guess we could if we only have these many stroke options. Okay, so I'm going to right click. I'm going to rasterize this layer so I can get in there. I'm going to hit M on the keyboard just to create a little bit of like a marquee selection here. I'm going to remove that. I'm just going to use my standard brush, make sure it's the right thickness. I think we were up to 12 pixels if I remember. Yep. And I'm going to select the layer. I'm going to click here, then hold down Shift to make a straight line, then hold down Shift again to continue that straight line. So this was not beautiful at all. Let's try that again. I think that's going to be enough. It ain't pretty, but it'll do the trick. So I'm going to go Control I to invert the color, because remember I want everything to be white. I'm going to save this as a PNG. Let's call this Restart Icon. There we go. I think we have all the icons we need. Just one more, actually. The three little dots should become an up arrow so that we can close it again. So let's just do that. I'm just going to use the standard brush and do the same thing again. I'm just going to create a line like that. Use the marquee tool. Select this one and let's just create like more than one line, like almost like a kind of a chevron pattern. So click, paste it one more time, just so that we have 3 lines, so they get that it mimics the previous 3 lines. There we go. I'm going to invert the selection. I'm going to save that as a, let's call this the collapse. Actually just call it the close icon. That's what it does. Okay, so that's it. So like I said, like these things I designed in a matter of like literally did not take very long. So let's grab the close options, quit, restart. I think those are the new ones. We're going to change it to Sprite 2D and UI. We know it's actually 256, so I'm just going to switch it over to that. Okay, so we want these buttons to be enabled when you click the 3 little dots. So we don't have support for that just yet, but we can really quickly add support. We also might want to design some sort of UI panel grid thing that will work with this. So we've got to consider a lot of these options. So I'm just going to duplicate one of these buttons, push it up here. I'm going to rename this one to options. Just put the word button in front of it, just easier to find when it's like that. And we're going to change the UI for options to be there. So this is now the options button that we're going to have, like that. When I click that button, these buttons should pop up. I should select one of them and all of it should close up back to this top button. Or I click this button and it should switch out. The idea is when I click this button, it should switch out to that icon. That is the idea. Let's try this out and see what happens. So we are going to put all the buttons we want to hide and unhide into an empty. So right click on the canvas, go create empty, call this option buttons. We're going to grab the bed, the TV stand and that and put it inside there. So all we're going to do is this. Okay, and we're going to select this button. We'll be doing that, be activating that. So this button really does not need this little flow graph script that we're using. It doesn't need all of these variables. So I'm going to clear out the variables over here. And I'm going to select the flow macro here and say none, because I want to create a new one. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to what am I doing scripts, go to Bolt. Let's create a new script. Let's just say button menu. There we go. Button menu is going to be the one that and we're going to use this. Sorry, this is huge. Let's put this down here, shall we? There we go. So when we click this button, we want to turn these on and off. Like that. You can do something fancy, but right now we're keeping it nice and simple like that. So when I click that button, I'll turn that off, turn that on. Okay, so we really just need one variable here. One or two? Yeah, one. So one variable. This one's going to be, let's call this button group. It's going to be a game object, and we're making a reference to the option buttons group. I'm going to drag this in here, and we're going to just do this. And we're going to allow, we need one more reference. We need a reference to the, let's call it button. This is going to be a reference to button. Remember, it's the one in Unity UI, not the one that says global. What button? The button that we're currently on. So we're going to grab the current button. We say on button click. Make this bigger. So when we click this button, we are going to have a branch. We're going to simply check again. We could have a bool to say, is the menu open or closed? We don't need to do that. We just grab this button group. We search out and we type in active. And we're looking for, let's just try that again, game object active. And we're looking for active self, game object active self. So this means if this group is already on, then turn it off, and if it's off, then turn it on. That's all we're going to do. Is we're going to actually be using the current variable we have just to check to see whether we should be enabling that or disabling that. So let's set that up. Over here we're going to say, okay, cool, let's duplicate that. Just note. So if it's already on, we're going to want to say game object dot set active, and that's going to be false. So if it's on, we want it off. And what we're going to do is duplicate this, plug that into where it says self, plug that into false, and turn that on to be true. So all that's left to do is I want to grab this object, this button's image, and switch it out. So we're going to grab off here, we're going to go and say image.image. Oh, yeah, let's try this again. Image dot, let's click image again, let's see if we find it, dot image literal Just double check what I'm doing here, if I'm doing it right. That's image dot source image. Okay, so I'm going to do one more thing and just be safe here. Oh no, it's right. It's image. Let me just check. It's not full amount. Material. Oh, sprite. Yes. Sorry, that's what it is. My apologies. So I'm going to set the sprite of this image to be, and when it needs to go back to options, because we're closing it, that is right, and then we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to say this one should be close. Let's test this and see if this works. Let's grab this, neaten this up a little bit. This is going to be like open, close, button, menu. Okay, so let's see what happens. These should be off by default, so I'm going to turn them off. I'm going to click the game. So when I click this button, all of these buttons should get enabled, and that should change. When I click that, it should close. Should be able to select that. Notice how that button grayed out, but these buttons did not gray out. Okay, so let's see why that's... Oh, it's because... Why is that? Let's actually check what it is. UI, object, buttons. They're all tagged as object buttons. Oh, the problem is they're disabled at the start. Okay. That would explain why they're not being added to the list. Okay, so we're going to disable this one way so we can actually add them to the list. So we're going to go into Tiny Room Manager. We're going to go to this script here really quickly, and we're going to fire off this using another event. So we're going to keep that one as it is. We're going to add a custom event. Okay, and over here we're going to say disable UI. Plug that in here. But we're going to do this after a certain amount of time. So we're going to type in time. We can just do a wait for seconds. I'm going to say we're going to wait for 0.01 of a second. Bloody number lock. 0.01 of a second. And then we'll do this here. Okay, there we go. So we're going to wait for a small fraction of time, but remember, wait for seconds cannot be plugged directly into a custom event. We have never done this before. You need to tell this custom event that it is a coroutine. Notice how the little arrows on the top right pop up, so it can handle time. So how are we going to call this custom event? We're going to, at the start of this object, we are going to call this event. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to type in trigger custom event. Paste this here, and that should do it. So we should be able to test this to see if that works. So all I'm doing is at the start, I'm going to wait 0.0 of a second, then disable the buttons. So if I do that and I select one of them, there we go, they all get disappeared. They all get disabled. Go here. Okay, so that's so far so good. It closes off by default. Open it up. Let's add a TV stand against this wall here. Let's just check if everything is working now. Turn the TV on. We have to design this UI here. So that's the way I would handle the UI. I think it keeps it nice and simple. Probably design a little UI panel that holds all of these UI. So in order for this to work the way I like it, and if I want to add more, I would probably add what we call a, you'd probably have to add two, but right now I'm just going to add a vertical group. Okay. The problem with the vertical group is now it's shifted, so I need to move this group back here. And I'm going to center that to the upper middle center. So what a vertical group does is it allows you to add more buttons, and it just and considering it's a vertical group, if I keep adding this here, we'll keep adding it to the bottom of that. And what's nice about this is it allows me to do some offsetting here like that, and then I can keep it nice and clean. So I'm going to add a vertical group, and then you could also add a horizontal one, so you could have columns and rows. So mess around with that, see what happens. But I would definitely add a vertical group. That way, every time I add a new button, it just adds it to the object like that. So you have one of these buttons. I should be able to click this one, click the one down here, which is just basically the TV repeated several times. Really helpful. I feel these buttons might be a little big in scale, so I'm going to make them like smaller than the main button, so 40 by 40. I think that's reasonable. Maybe even 30 by 30. There we go. Maybe even the top one's a little bit big, so I think I'm going to make this button 40 by 40. There we go. Just going to move this a little bit closer. You could even have it come out the top here instead of the bottom. Again, using let's turn off the vertical group and let's have a horizontal group instead. Okay, let me just remove this one. I thought you could disable it completely. Notice how we have a horizontal group now, so I could put this on this side, and again, the more I duplicate, the more buttons I can add. So I could set this rather to be in the upper right so that it goes bloody hell. So I can, again, this will just work automatically because I'm just messing around with vertical groups and design groups. There we go, it's off. Click on here, there's my new buttons. They're supposed to be down, they're across, so please just mess around with what you can do. Don't be afraid to break things, that's what I'm here for. So please shout if you do break something, and that is more than fine. I think that's it. Let's just do these little buttons down here in the game. Sorry, there's two more things I completely forgot. Just want to duplicate this big boy button over here. And we're just going to add this code. We're going to add one here, and we'll add one Okay, so this button is going to be the call this the restart button. This one might need to be on the opposite side, so there's no confusion by a mistake hitting it. And this is the exit button. Okay, so let's change the exit button icon for the quit. There we go. Let's go to the restart one and choose the restart icon for that one. So we have that. So that's what that's looking like right now. We have all of these icons here. They're all in the right places, give or take. And then what we can do is just in this script fire off all of those. So again, really simple stuff. So I'm going to select my button script here. We'll make a reference to two more buttons. So this one's going to be the quit button. And I'm going to make a reference to the quit button. There we go, exit. Make another one. This one's going to be the restart button. Again, make another reference to a button. There we go. I'll drag these two in as well so that I can maximize this view. So these are all to do with the opening and closing. So we're going to put this down here. Over here it's going to be about what happens when you quit the game, what happens when you restart the game. So we're going to drag off the quit. We're going to say on button click. Duplicate that, paste it down here. So what happens when you click the button, what happens when you click. So the quit one is the easiest piece of code you'll ever write. Type in application.quit. Second one from the top, that will quit the game. And this one here is going to be a load scene. You're looking for scene manager.load scene. And we're just going to use build index. It's going to be easier. Just leave it at 0 because that's going to be the index that we're building from. So where am I getting this 0 from? When you're making a build, you're going to go File, Build Settings, and you're going to need to add the level you're building. So in this case, I'm just going to say add open scene. That is the build index where it says 0. Okay, so let's test if this works. You won't be able to tell the quit because Unity, it doesn't technically make a build, so you can't quit out of this build. But we can see if the quit button works when you click on it. Notice how it's firing at the bottom there. Click the restart. It worked. So we can do a better test of the restart to see if it works. I'm going to add this, turn this on so we can see whether it's working. Click the restart. We clear out the level. So that's the plan. That is it. So one more thing is just to redesign those quick buttons down there. So let's open up the prefab, TV. I just want to turn on the UI and just do a design consideration for this thing. Okay, so I'm going to use all the existing icons I have right now. So I'm going to remove the text from this, because we do not need them. I choose these buttons, and I think we've decided 40 is a decent size. I'm also going to change the images on these here. This one is the interact button, so we'll make it just make it use the 3 lines for now. Maybe design something for that. And then the other one is going to be the exit, which we have the quit X button, so we might as well use that. And I think for simplicity's sake, I want to kind of put them together somehow. Something like that, where we design the icons a little bit. Parent that one to the interact so I can move the interact across. Need to grab some of these colors. I really do. So I'm going to come back to this button after I grab all the settings of one of these. We'll just switch out the image. So I'm going to grab this button. I'm going to go copy component. I go back into my prefab here. Grab this button here. I'm going to right click on here and say paste component values. Paste component values. What is happening? Is it not actually pasting component values? Let's see what's happening here. Put that down, put that down. That looks quite nice, but that's weird that it didn't want to change the one. Let's go back here. Oh, it didn't work. Paste component values. Let's try that again. So I'm aware that it's probably updating, so I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. I don't need it to be as big. I just need it to be kind of like connecting like that. I think that should do it. I really think, again, got to go and build do the room, do the materials, do all that stuff, but I mean, like outside of that, I think we're looking good. I think we really are. I think we've got some nice elements. Yeah, I'm good with that. So I think for now that will be it for the video. So we just added some UI, we designed added some color, some design choices. Notice how the post-processing does not affect the UI. That's because when things get rendered in Unity, it renders it in passes or layers, and the UI is the last thing to be rendered in this sense. So if you wanted the UI to be affected by the bloom and the color correction, you would have to, we haven't even gotten there yet, we'd have to change the canvas from being screen space to being world space or camera space, and then you would be able to do something along those lines. Let's just see. Notice how once I changed it over, notice how the buttons are now affected by all the bloom, because all I did was change it from screen space overlay to camera space overlay. But just be aware that that is how that works. That's why none of this is being affected. So again, let's just do one more test to see what we've got, everything that we've got, and then work from there. So my icons are more mobile friendly size than normal. This is not the right icon. What is happening with that button? Sorry, I by mistake duplicated this exit button, but did not remove the code that is on this exit button. So let me go down here. I'm going to remove the flow machine, remove the variables, and the same thing for the restart button. The restart button should not have anything. It's all on this button here. So remove and remove, and let's try that again. That was very weird. Okay, that's exit, restart, click here, see if the restart works. Yes. TV gets locked down there. We only want to delete that. TV unit, TV, bed, pick up bed, drop bed, turn TV on. Good, there's a few bugs, but I think I'll make a follow-up video just to talk about all the bugs. I'm going to go write down a list of issues that I see, and then we can call it a day on this project. So thank you so much, guys, for coming. Next video is also going to just be covering how to do this in C#, which is very basic. I'm going to copy all of this stuff and just write a really quick script to make this work. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next video. Cheers.